Beautiful. Beautiful things.
Haribol. Thank you, Anora. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this Karthik service brilliantly. Hare Krishna. See, next time I want to hear it on harmonium because I know today you didn't have the time because of the test, but next time harmonium.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. So we will today start with the 16th chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langite girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam. So we'll start as usual with a recap. So we are in the third section, the Gyan section of the Bhagavad Gita, chapters 13 to 18. The mnemonic is NTY, DDC for the 6 chapters. So N is nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. T is the 3 modes of material nature. Y is the yoga of the Supreme Person. And D we are doing this time, divine and demoniac nature. 17th is the divisions of faith. And then 18th is the conclusion, perfection of renunciation. So we are close to the end. We have after this we have 2 more chapters left. And then after we finish the Bhagavad Gita, then I welcome feedback from you, but so at least Indulekha and I were thinking that it'd be a good idea if you all take turns to present a chapter. So there are 18 chapters, and you can present it in a 10-minute slot. So obviously you'll have to compress it and give a high-level summary, and then leave 5 minutes after that for any questions and answers. So that way we can do 6 chapters in a session, and we can do a recap of the Bhagavad Gita in 3 weeks after that. So we can have some more discussion on that. Just I'm putting it there for you to think about it. Maybe later on we can have some discussion. So what were some of the things in the previous chapter? So the 2 sections were divine material detachment and spiritual attachment. It's a straightforward chapter. What does the reflected banyan tree represent? Remember, the chapter started with a description of a reflected banyan tree, which essentially is a representation of the material world, and it is a reflection of the spiritual world. and it is reflected on the water of material desires. So we had made this point that there is in the material world, everything is coming from the spiritual world. We are coming from the spiritual world. Krishna is coming from the spiritual world. Emotions are coming from the spiritual world. Everything that we experience, happiness, distress, lust, anger, envy, everything is coming from the spiritual world. The only difference is that in the material world, it is perverted. In the spiritual world, everything is centered around Krishna. And in the material world, everything is centered around us. So the problem is that there are too many Krishnas in the material world, and that is why all this conflict is arising. So the banyan tree, as I mentioned, it grows on perverted desire, the reflection of the banyan tree. And then the tree is nourished by the modes of material nature. And then it is supported by many, many roots, and it is very, very dense. It describes the nature of the material world. There are unlimited desires. And each of the desire is entangling in itself. So the whole material world is essentially a network of desires. Some of them are at a lower level, some of them at a higher level, but they are entangling nevertheless. And then Krishna speaks about transmigration in this chapter. He spoke about it briefly in the second chapter when he said, "Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani granati naroparani," that a soul, it gives up bodies just like a person gives up clothes and accepts new bodies. Here Krishna speaks a little bit more about the science of transmigration. That why does somebody get the body of a demigod? Why does somebody get the body of an animal? Amongst humans, why does somebody get an opulent body? Somebody gets a disfigured body. And essentially, it is based on what we desire and what we deserve. So the deserve part is determined by the sum total of our karmic reactions. The desire part is based on our independent free will. So it's like you have some money in your bank and you cannot withdraw more than that, even if you want. So based on our karma, we are getting a certain body. We may want the body of a demigod, but if karma does not allow it, we won't. But given what the karma can award us, after that it's our desires. That some people, they desire a certain kind of body. Prabhupada had these plates made where he showed that people who are addicted to sleeping, they get the body of a bear, and people who are addicted to excessive sex get the body of animals that are expert in sex. So in this way, the desire and deserve determines the next body for the jiva. Then this is really why Krishna is speaking this, that he's describing the tree so that he can explain how to be free of this tree. And he talks about this axe of detachment sharpened with discrimination. And we'll speak some in the later summary. Now, once you're detached from the tree, what to do? So you're tied to a tree, you're detached, what to do? So surrender to Krishna. So that is why this chapter talks about material detachment and spiritual attachment. And what's the destination of one who is attached to Krishna? The spiritual world. Okay. So the analogy of the banyan tree that Krishna uses is apt because all of us have seen banyan trees in India. They have many roots, and they're spread wide. It's said there's a banyan tree somewhere in Gujarat that has a circumference that has an area covers more than 2 mile area, and nobody really knows where's the real root of the banyan tree. So that's the nature of the material world. That it is complex, and it is bewildering, and it is almost impossible to escape. You jump from one branch, another branch holds you. You think you have escaped from one part of the tree, but then you're in another part of the tree. So Krishna says that don't worry about trying to unentangle yourself. Cut this tree down. To cut the tree that is as strong as this, you need a strong axe. So this is the axe that is made from detachment and renunciation. Because really speaking, attachment and ignorance is what is holding us into this material world. So once we reverse this, that we become materially detached, and we replace ignorance by knowledge and discrimination. The knowledge here is transcendental knowledge about the jiva, knowledge about Krishna, knowledge about the spiritual world. Then it becomes possible to cut the tree from the root. And once freed from this material contamination, one should recognize the supremacy of Krishna. Because otherwise the jiva is still left in limbo. That you're freed from this contaminating association with the material world, but you have nowhere to go. So Krishna immediately presents the ultimate destination. That as soon as you detach, in fact, simultaneously, as you develop your detachment, you begin to develop your attachment to Krishna. And the conclusion is that bhakti is the most efficient process to accomplish this, because it gives us both. There are other processes that give us in a step-by-step way. But bhakti gives us both simultaneously, 2 for 1. That as we are developing spiritual attachment, material detachment is coming as a byproduct, and Krishna is helping. Okay, so we have a volunteer for the, or do we have a volunteer for the verse?
Varsha Mataji is raising her hand.
Who's raising hand?
Varsha Mataji.
Okay, I'm not able to see it. Go ahead, Varsha.
Yeah. ममे वांशो जीवलोके जीवभूते सनातना मन षष्ठानि इंद्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति.
Thank you, Ladugopal Prabhu. You want to go for the translation?
Here in this condition, like in the material world, jivas are my eternal fragmental parts, and they are struggling in the conditioned state with 6 senses, including the mind.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay. So we now start with the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that is called the Divine and Demoniac Nature. So in the 13th chapter, Arjun had inquired about how does the living entity get trapped in the material world. And then Krishna says that it is out of his desire to enjoy, separate from Krishna, that he comes down to the material world, accepts the body, and enjoys. And all this is made possible by the help of Krishna in the form of Paramatma. And Krishna says that who is the supreme enjoyer. So in the next chapter, Krishna, he talks about the consequences of the spirit soul occupying the material body. So every action has some consequences, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Now, in this case, when the jiva makes this decision to enjoy in the material world, the consequence is that he gets bound to the material world. So it's like somebody wants to experience high speed and he sits in a car that goes really fast. Now he's bound in that car. The person can't suddenly say that this is not what I want. Of course, he could say it, but there has to be a process of him getting out of that car. But the only way that he can enjoy that high speed is by being bound in that car. So that's the consequence. And the binding is described as the modes of material nature. So this is something that is discussed a lot from the conception of the material world, because this is the mechanism through which the spirit soul, which has nothing to do with the material world, becomes an integral part of the material world because of the modes of material nature. So Krishna introduces us and Arjuna to the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then we saw that how these modes, they combine and they recombine just like strands of a rope, and they become immensely powerful. In the 15th chapter, the yoga of the Supreme Person, Krishna further explains the nature of this binding, and he expands on why this is so difficult to escape from, by using the analogy of the banyan tree. And more importantly, he says while it is difficult, it is possible to escape it. And he says it is not possible to escape while keeping the tree intact. The only way to escape is by cutting the tree down. So essentially what he is saying is that some people think that if we go to the mode of goodness, if we do pious things, charitable things, then we can become perfect. And Krishna is essentially saying it does not work. So he says there are higher branches and lower branches. The higher branches being Brahmalok, and the higher planets, the lower branches being the Earth planet and even the hellish planets. So the most that will happen is we'll transmigrate to the higher branches, but we will not be able to escape the tree. So the only way is to cut down the tree by detachment and understanding where the trunk is, how to apply the force, by understanding it through the process of process of knowledge, and then importantly take to the process of bhakti. So we are now entering into the 16th chapter, and 16th and 17th chapters are essentially going to talk about the lower and higher branches of the tree. So in 16 chapters, we will see the divine and the demoniac personalities, which essentially are people who are in the higher modes and the lower modes. In the 17th chapter, which is titled Divisions of Faith, a more uh, uh, can okay. So we'll see the divisions of faith, a more systematic division of the various aspects of the modes will be discussed. But essentially, these two chapters are going to describe the higher and lower modes of material nature. So the 16th chapter, and this is no surprise, is divided into two sections, which is the divine qualities and the demoniac qualities. And you'll notice that Krishna uses only 5 verses to describe the divine qualities, and the rest of the chapter is essentially a description of the demoniac qualities. So since both of them start with D, the mnemonic is V and M. So the V stands for the V in divine, and the M stands for the M in the demoniac qualities. So first section, divine qualities. So Krishna will provide 26 qualities that he considers to be divine, and he will categorize them 3 ways. One is by one's varnashram, and so one is by ashram, one is by varna, and the third is what he considers as cross-cutting or general qualities that everybody should cultivate. And most of these qualities, there's no big surprise over here. And the reason is that it's the nature of the soul to be pious. So it doesn't need to be told. So that's why Krishna, he briefly describes the divine qualities, even though he enumerates more divine qualities. So he'll talk about 26 divine qualities and only 6 demoniac qualities, but he speaks more about them, because the soul is inherently aware of it. Now, may not be aware of the details based on time, place, circumstance, but nevertheless, the soul is aware. And if the soul is not aware, the super soul is guiding. So people have this intuition, sixth sense, inherent feelings, and they always guide one in the to the more higher platform of living. We may not follow it all the time. So we may do something that is against our inner voice. And that's because we have free will, we have conditioning, but intrinsically we know. Once one of these questions was asked, how do we know whether we are doing something right or wrong? And the sannyasi, he simply answered, he said, you know. And if you say you do not know, then the only person that you are cheating is yourself. So we will see that these qualities are some things that, there's not going to be a big surprise. So these are by ashram. So ashram means there are some qualities that are suitable for that ashram and not suitable for another ashram. So for a brahmacharya, study of the scriptures and celibacy are the 2 qualities that are recommended. Now, other than grahastha, all the other ashrams follow celibacy. But it is specially recommended for the brahmacharis, because it is most important for them to be able to control their senses in that respect, because if they don't, then they will live the rest of their lives based on the conditioning that they have developed at that stage. So because when one is young, the senses are strong, the desire for passion is strong. So if the person has learned how to control at that time, then that control stands in good stead through the other three ashrams. And Vedic study is quite obvious for the person to know what to do and what not to do. For Grahastha, charity is very important, because Grahastha is one where you are allowed to enjoy materially, build a house, have possessions, eat good food. So dravya is plentiful, but along with enjoying dravya or material things, charity is important because it helps develop detachment from the material things. So one enjoys, but one enjoys in a regulated way. So all three, charity, self-control, and sacrifice, they are geared to develop this sense of regulation. For vanaprastha, it's austerity, because it is a stage where one is turning away from the enjoyment in the grihastha life. So it is the process of giving up comfort, giving up the security of a bank balance, giving up the security of having a large family around you. So the main quality of in vanaprastha is austerity of the senses, of the body, of the mind. So it is now detaching the mind from what it has been engrossed in. And then for sannyas, it is abstinence, purity, fearlessness. So fearlessness is a synonym of taking shelter of the Lord. That's the only way one can become abhay. Otherwise, there's always fear. There's fear of being attacked by animals or robbers, bad health, fear of where my next meal would be. So sannyas, the main thing is that they now take shelter of the Lord, and then the qualities follow: fearlessness, purity, poverty. The sannyasis are not supposed to hoard things. They're only supposed to eat as much as they can fill in their belly, not carry any food with them, not look for a shelter, sleep under a different tree. So that sense of renunciation is very prominent in this ashram. Okay, so we'll do the qualities of as per the varnas, and then pause for if there's any discussion. So the varnas are the chaturvarnas: the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And the main qualities of the Brahman is that they are non-envious. So the Brahmins are supposed to be the teachers for others. They are not supposed to their wealth is spiritual wealth. So freedom from envy is very important. That they will be dealing with people who are living in big houses, who may be having beautiful wives, or happy families. And the Brahmanas, they will live simply They will also have families, but they will live simply. Their lives are dedicated to spiritual endeavors. So the most important thing is that they are unenvious. And ultimately, this freedom from envy comes only when one gives up the envy to the Supreme Lord. So because the Brahman is one who is situated in the Brahman, so they are free from duality. And lack of enviousness is the root cause of the freedom from duality. For Kshatriya, it is valor and fortitude. Kshatriyas are chivalrous. They are guarding the Brahmins and the Vaishyas and Shudras. They're enforcing the rules of the Dharma. So courage and fortitude is the qualities that Krishna recommends. For Vaishyas, Saucham, cleanliness. And cleanliness is important. So it's not just cleanliness of the body, but of the mind and the heart. So because the Vaishyas deal in trading, so cleanliness of the mind and heart means that they're honest. They do not speak lies. They do not cheat. They do not manipulate, over accumulate, or try to contaminate things. And this is something that you will actually have empirically seen in India, that at least in the traditional, in the smaller towns, you will see that even the smallest shopkeeper, he would be clean, wearing clean clothes, freshly bathed. He may be having a small dingy shop, but they always at the end of the day, they may not be internally clean, but they exude this aura of cleanliness, and it's something that attracts. So at least at this time, they know that what works for the clients, what works for the customers, so it attracts the customers. You go to a person and you see a shopkeeper, and he has 3 days of a stubble, and he's wearing rumpled clothes, his eyes are bloodshot. Very unlikely you will enter into commerce with him. So quality for Vaishya is Saucham, cleanliness. And for Shudra, because their goal is to serve the others, so freedom from the passion of honor. They remain in the background, integral part of the society, but they support from behind. Okay, so I'll pause here and see if there are any thoughts or comments. Okay, so if not, sure, go ahead, Prabhu.
Sorry. Two comments. Comment one is, I think you said it, but you probably, it was so simple for everybody, you rushed it. I really believe in that. When you said what is right and wrong, you kind of, one decides it or one kind of knows it. I look at it this way, Prabhu. When I don't know an English word, I look at a dictionary and try to learn it. But if I'm in a full consciousness, and particularly Krishna consciousness, I don't have to look at anything. It's the answers comes from within, which is right or wrong. As long as you're doing a mirror on the wall, right? In the sense that it is wrong or right. You may say it in a different way in front of 10 people, but you kind of know it. It's wrong. I just completely believe in that. That's one observation or a point. I think the second one, what not bothers me, this four thing that you talked about from the four varnas. The question is it out of by birth or by action? That what bothers me, because sometimes I do discuss with some of the clients. We all know the four thing that has been running even till today. Somebody who is born in a Sudra family behaves in a manner that is far superior to a Brahmin family. What is your guidance to us in terms, or me, in terms of maintaining that discipline yet not destroying the structure as described in the scripture?
Thank you, Prabhu. It's a good question. In the fourth chapter, actually, Krishna speaks about this. I think it's the chapter 4, verse 13. Chaturvanya Maya Sreshta Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Krishna says that these 4 varnas in the societies have been created by me. So they have the scriptural validity. And then he says Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that the varnas are based on one's propensities and one's activities. And then Prabhupada in the purport clearly states that this caste system, where a person is born as a Brahmin because he is born in a Brahmin family, it's a degradation. There's no scriptural basis to it. The scriptural basis is that if a person has the qualities and the propensities that fit into a particular varna, then that person adopts that varna. And Prabhupada gives the example that outside India, they follow the varna system. They may not recognize it, but they follow it. If a person has quality of chivalry and valor, they will go into the army, defense services. They're Kshatriya. Regardless of what their father may be, but they're Kshatriya. And there are people who go into education, there are people who become traders, and there are people who become computer programmers. So it's their, it's based on their guna karma vibhagasha. There is a certain amount of affinity, like you see people coming from army backgrounds, army families, they tend to go back to army. My dad was in the army, and most of the people that I grew up with, now it's been a long time, but I'm still in touch with some of them. They're in the army. That's what right from the beginning they saw that environment, they had that nature, they went to army. You see medical families, so to speak. Father is a doctor, son's a doctor, wife's a doctor, and so there's a certain amount of affinity that happens, but that is more because it affects one's way of thinking, one's propensities, etc. But essentially, it is guna karma vibhagasha, based on one's qualities and based on one's activities. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so let me. So in this slide, what we will see is Krishna talking about the general qualities. So he had spoken about the qualities for a varna, specific for a varna, specific for an ashram. Now he will talk about qualities which are general qualities. And again, these are kind of what I would say common sense qualities. Talks about simplicity, steady determination, modesty, gentleness, freedom from covetousness, compassion to all living entities. Prabhupada says to all living entities, not just human beings, but all living entities. Aversion to fault finding, tranquility, being peaceful, being detached, renunciation, freedom from anger, being truthful, non-violent. And if you look at these qualities, when I was doing a little bit of research on them, I noticed that now it may be coincidence or it may be deliberate, but I noticed that there are people who have nothing to do with Bhagavad Gita, but they're actually running seminars on how to live a happy life based on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So there were slides that were talking about the importance of these qualities. No, they obviously did not have a God-centric view. They were talking just in terms of how they are conducive to a happy life overall. And like I said, it may be coincidental because these qualities are common sense qualities, but it attests to the universality of Bhagavad Gita. That Krishna is not speaking to a narrow section of human beings. He is not speaking to Hindus. He is not speaking to Hindus who are pious. He is speaking to everyone. These qualities, they apply to everyone. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, human being, every human being, demigods also, it applies to them. So with these, Krishna concludes the qualities that are considered as divine. And actually, he says that everything else is demoniac. Now, he'll talk about qualities that are more specifically demoniac, but he says you should know that everything else that is not in the qualities that I've given you should be considered to be demoniac. So we come to the section 2, where he starts talking about the demoniac qualities, and he focuses on 6 qualities: pride, anger, arrogance, conceit, harshness, and ignorance. Again, no big surprise over here. If I were to not have shown the slide and taken a poll, I can bet you that all these 6 qualities would have come one way or the other. In fact, when we do the Bhagavad Gita seminar, and there we have more time and it's interactive, that's what is done. People write what they consider to be demoniac qualities, and without fail, we get the hit of these 6 qualities. At the root of this is ignorance. Ignorance about one's own position. And Krishna talks about this ignorance, that out of the ignorance, the person thinks that aham karta, aham bhogi, Ishvara aham, balvan, sukhi. So he says aham karta, aham bhogi, that I do and I enjoy. I am God. Ishvara aham, balvan, sukhi. I am the most powerful and I am happy. And then he thinks that so much I have attained today, so much more I will attain tomorrow. So many of my enemies are dead today, and the rest of them hopefully will be dead tomorrow. Essentially, it is coming from a platform of ignorance. That the person is not seeing their own position. The real position of the soul is to serve Krishna and his devotees. But out of ignorance, the person thinks that the real position for me is that everybody should serve me. If they do not serve me, then there is a problem. And from this, the other qualities sprout. So pride comes, that the little that I have achieved is something that I can be proud of. So it is said, Prabhupada would say that a beggar is, what's the saying, that a beggar is proud of the penny, that he has nothing, but even if he has a penny, then he's proud of it. So if you look at the scheme of things, even the most accomplished person, whatever the person has will eventually be taken away. So the pride is essentially for a very transient and a very illusory sense of ownership. And from this pride comes conceit. So conceit means that what I have, others should not have. So conceit is trickery. That I have $10. How can I make sure the other person does not have that money? It's envy. It's jealousy. And when the plans that are made by the person are not fructified, then anger and harshness comes. And if they are partially fructified, arrogance comes. That I set out to do so much and I did it, so look at me. So these qualities, Krishna says, are found in the demoniac. Now, factually speaking, and this is really a time for us to be introspective, we have both. We have the 26 divine qualities, and then we have the 6 demoniac qualities also. And really, you will see, even if you look around, you'll not see one who is completely demoniac or completely divine. Krishna is saying because we see these qualities in ourselves and we are able to distill them. So Prabhupada would say, if 2 dogs are fighting, then which dog wins? The one that is being fed more. So we have the divine qualities and we have the demoniac qualities. So when we start nourishing our divine qualities, then they will win. And eventually, because of lack of attention, because of lack of nourishment, the demoniac qualities will wither and go away. So really speaking, this is not for us to go around picking up these qualities in other people. That my neighbor, I can see arrogant person, my boss, completely ignorant, and this person so conceited. This is not the purpose for it. It is really for cleansing ourselves. So this is a very interesting chart that I found, in which the title is "Find Solution for Your Problems in Bhagavad Gita." And the reason I saw it relevant here is because Krishna does not leave us hanging. Now, he has said that he wants us to nourish our divine qualities. He has said that the root of demoniac qualities is ignorance. And he will also say that following the scriptures is important. So, because we are reading Bhagavad Gita, then we can see how Krishna gives us clues to either nourish our positive qualities or to seek redress in situations that develop negative qualities. Uncontrolled mind, chapter 6, Astanga Yoga, which is all about mind. I saw this chart, actually, I'm not sure if it was prepared by Bhanuswami, but I saw it in the Chennai ISKCON temple, and I had taken a picture of it there. So initially I was uploading the picture. It was not a very good picture. It was just it was on the wall and I'd taken a picture. And then I saw that somebody had actually prepared this nice PowerPoint presentation, and I took it from there. So the bottom line is that the scriptures are there as a guardrail. As long as we are taking support from the guardrail, we are okay. We are protected. What happens when we stop taking shelter of the scriptures? And this is where Krishna says that he who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. So when Krishna boils down everything, then essentially it comes to taking shelter of the scriptures. Those who take shelters of the scriptures are divine. Those who discard the scriptures are demoniac. And taking shelter means sincerely taking shelter. Taking shelter means that when the scriptures say something, you do that. That means taking shelter, not just saying that I have a Bhagavad Gita in my house and or I read my Bhagavad Gita every day, but I follow. So this is at the root level. This is the distinction. That following the words of Krishna as they appear in the Vedas is the hallmark of divinity. And not doing that is the trademark of demoniac. So one may ask, so what's the difference then? Fine, one is following divine, one is following demoniac qualities. What's the difference between the two? And then Krishna says there is a difference in the destination. That those who are divine, their destination is higher planets. Ultimately, they go back home to Krishna. And those who are impious, the destination is hellish planets. So the destination is determined by the qualities and the activities that the person is doing. So there are a person who might say that enjoy now and don't worry about tomorrow. But factually speaking, the now enjoyment is going to create a lot of worry for tomorrow. We may not be able to see it empirically. Sometimes we can, because sometimes even in this very life, we can see the cycle of karma fructifying. And sometimes it fructifies over several lifetimes. And that's why the eyes of the scriptures reveal to us what we cannot empirically see. So Krishna ends saying that hell has three gates: lust, anger, and greed. Now he talked about the six demoniac qualities, and in a way they're so it's the same palette of colors that is being used to paint different pictures. So he speaks strongly about these three as the root of one's entrapment in the lower forms of life. So lust is the strong desire to possess something, whether it is wealth, whether it is fame, whether it is a material object, but one has a strong desire. And what is the output of lust? Two things can happen. That the person may be able to possess it, and then lust gets transformed into greed. That I really want this, I really want this, I got it, I want more of it. And what does greed result in? Lust. That it's the X+1 syndrome. So all of us have experienced this, being immigrants from another country, that let this happen. After this, I'll be okay. And then when that happens, it's good. But let this happen. After that, I'll be satisfied. That happens, but let this happen. So the lust gets converted to greed. Ultimately, greed will become unsatisfied. Right? They say that there is more than enough for everybody's need. There is not enough for even one person's greed. I'm paraphrasing the saying. The saying actually is there is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. But actually, there is not enough for even one person's greed. We take the example of Hiranyakashipu. This one person, he had everything. He was the ruler of the three worlds. He had dominion on all the demigods, the Rakshasas, everybody. He was ruling in Indra's planet. He had immortality. He had youth, power, health, everything he had. But then also he wanted more. He kept wanting more and more. And ultimately, when the greed is unsatisfied, it gets converted into anger. So these three are powerful because they feed into one another. Lust results in greed if it is satisfied. If lust is unsatisfied, it becomes anger. Greed becomes lust, and ultimately it will become anger. So they're like nourishing one another and strengthening one another, and they're powering the person towards the hellish existence. So why does Krishna speak about demoniac qualities? This is Bhagavad Gita. This is meant for devotees, and he speaks about them to hold up a red flag. That if you don't have it, good. If you have it, be aware of it and give it up to attain the supreme destination. And he also does that to warn us that we should not take these qualities lightly. They are very, very powerful. If we were to fight against them, then in 10 cases out of 10 cases, we will be defeated. Because we are the foreigners over here. This is their home ground. It's like sometimes when we have unpleasant experiences, then we say that, well, we are immigrants to this country. So better to take a more submissive position. When we go back to India, then for the same thing, if somebody cuts us off on the road or somebody treats us in a disrespectful way, then we might get upset at the person. But here we kind of pacify ourselves. So that's the nature. The soul is not from the material world, from the spiritual world. Ravindra Sir Prabhu says that people are looking to find life in other planets, and actually we are the aliens over here. So why are you looking around for aliens? We are the aliens. We don't really belong to this planets and this universe. We have come from somewhere else. But these qualities belong over here. They are more powerful than us. So that is why we have to take shelter of the scriptures. So it is said that when you're against a more powerful enemy, then what you need to do is to make friends with somebody who is more powerful than your enemy. So the scriptures are the words of Krishna. Krishna is more powerful than all these enemies put together. So we take shelter of Krishna. Shelter of Krishna means taking shelter of the scriptures. Taking shelter of the scriptures mean that we abide by the instructions given in the scriptures. And in this way, we develop the divine qualities. And for those who are not able to develop, Krishna says they are cast into repeated births in abominable species in hellish conditions. Right now, we are fortunate. We have a human form of life. We have taken birth at a time where, by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, spirituality is blossoming. It is very easy for us to take to it. And it has been made very easy to practice. And the fortune is because of our own making. So Prabhupada said that he would tell his disciples that each one of you has taken to Krishna consciousness has done so because you have performed unlimited pious activities in your previous lives. Because you've given in charity. Because you performed devotional service. So you have worked hard. And you have performed austerities. And that is why you have been fortunate enough to get this opportunity now. In the third canto of the Bhagavatam, the demigods, they say that we aspire to take birth in the human form of life on the earth planet. Because the earth planet is unique. In heavenly planets, there is so much enjoyment that it is difficult to see the dark side of the material existence. Yes, they have some fights with the asuras. They go to Krishna, Krishna helps them. But by and large, generally they're drinking somaras and watching the apsaras dance, and they have immense amount of power. They have birth and death, but they don't have disease and old age. So their lives are, the lives are much more enjoyable. But on the earth planet, we have a good mixture. A little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of suffering, a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of suffering. Constant reminder that this is not where we want to be, but we don't have so much suffering that we get bewildered by it. So the right mixture has been created to allow us this fortitude to follow spirituality, to give us the impetus to follow spirituality, to give us the taste also to follow it. Okay. Summary of the chapter. So Krishna explains the transcendental and the demoniac qualities. And these qualities are basically developed by associating with the respective modes. So the mode of passion and ignorance results in demoniac, and the mode of goodness results in divine quality. And because we are in a confluence of these three modes, we also have a mixture of the divine and demoniac qualities. And Krishna speaks about the glories of the divine and the disadvantages of the demoniac qualities. Divine are conducive to spiritual, and demoniac lead one to hellish conditions. And then he speaks about the 26 qualities that are divine. And then the most important point that he makes is adherence to scriptures. That the basis of piety is adherence to scriptures. The basis of impiety is disregard of scriptures. Okay, so let me pause here And so this is pretty much the end of the chapter. After that, we have those the verse to remember um, and things to know. But let me pause here and see if we have any discussion.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much Prabhuji for the nice class. Uh, uh, Actually, there are so many thoughts are coming, but I will stick to my question. Prabhuji, generally, envy is something so strongly, warned us against. But here, out of the 6 pollutions that we have, that Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya, the only the first 3 here Krishna emphasized so much. And so, is there a reason more than envy here? Krishna warning us on these 3 things, and also whether these 3 things have any relation, just like the natural relation these 3 are having, nourishing. Whether these 3 are having relation with other 3, like Moha, Mada, Matsarya, kind of.
Difficult for me to second guess Krishna, Prabhu. So I don't know the answer to your question.
Uh, but maybe I am not asking why he told this kind of, but at least is there any relation these 3 qualities uh, nourish the other thing also, envy also this thing will nourish, or
Generally, the understanding is that, and Prabhupada would speak about envy as being a very close cousin to ignorance. So what's the nature of envy? Envy comes from this sense of the I and the mind, that I am important and everything is mine. The nature of envy is that if I'm envious of you, I may have $100 and you may have $1, but I'll still be envious of you. Right? That's the nature of envy. It's not because you may have more than me, or I am deprived of something. Envy is absolute in the material world. It's not predicated. Jealousy is a little different. Jealousy is that I want a red car, you have a red car, I become jealous of you. But the day I get a red car, I stop being jealous of you. It's a more, surprised to say, but it's a more benign sentiment. Children have it, and we have it, even have it, it comes and goes. But the framework of the material world is built on envy that is coming out of ignorance. So the ignorance is with respect to I and mine. So when we are able to align the I as that I am not Krishna into I am Krishna's servant, and I am the servant of Krishna's servant, and then we are able to align the mind into that nothing belongs to me, because what's the first verse of Isopnishad?
Isavasyamidam sarvam yaskint.
Everything belongs to Krishna, right? Isavasyam vidam sarvam yat kincha jagatam jagat tena tak tena bunjita magrada swakashit swajan. That everything belongs to Krishna. So even if you own, but with the understanding that it belongs to Krishna, then that sense of um, of wanting to exploit others, wanting to have others serve you, that will go away. So these are considered to be the causal qualities of material contamination. Other qualities, they blossom from it. They nourish one another. And difficult to draw a linear chart saying that this particular quality is nourishing that quality. And there's a lot of focus that is given in looking at it from a root level. That's the whole process of Krishna consciousness, right? That we are trying to change a conception of I and mine. We are not going after each and every of these. Prabhupada says that you don't have to go and develop all these 26 qualities. He makes this point that once you become a devotee, all these qualities manifest in you. Why? Because the root of that which is preventing these qualities is gone now. So they automatically manifest. And the reason Prabhupada says manifest is because these qualities are already there. We don't have to acquire these qualities. In fact, we acquire the other qualities. We acquire the qualities of envy, we acquire the qualities of anger and lust. They are foreign to us. The divine qualities, they're intrinsic to us. We just need to manifest them. Yeah. Thank you for the nice question, Prabhu. I have a question on the chat. You mentioned we perform a lot of pious activities to get this human form of life. Then why didn't we go back to Krishna? Is it because most of this pious activity was not direct devotion to Krishna? So difficult to say from a specific perspective, but our journey back to Krishna is a journey. At some point, we will arrive. So it's a journey that we are doing. So we took to Krishna consciousness because we had prior experience with Krishna consciousness. So we have this experience that we go out and we introduce to so many people Krishna consciousness. We have been running the Bhakti Vriksha in our house now since 2006, 15 years almost. I have so many examples of people who come in and they can barely sit through one session and they go away, never to be seen again. And some people come for some time and then they go away. Some people stay. So everybody has their journey. And we are continuing on the journey. The only thing that Krishna promises us that we can take is that having embarked on this journey, it is a foregone conclusion that we will complete the journey. So second chapter, verse 40, Krishna gives this assurance. Neha brikamanashasti pratvayo na vidyate. Swalpam apyasya, that swalpam, that even small things that you do, there is never any loss or diminution there. Now, that means that when we have started this journey, we are not turning back. But how quickly we reach our destination, that depends on how fast we walk. How often do we walk? Do we walk for some time and then sit over there and sit and admire the trees and the fruits and everything? And then after that, get up and walk a little bit, or we are walking briskly. We see some devotees, they come and they take to Krishna consciousness like fish to water. Within no time, they're chanting, they're taking initiation, they're super serious. And then you see other devotees, they're thinking about it. Should I chant? Should I not chant? Prabhupada would say, in Calcutta, he was doing this program, and he said that I keep telling all of you to chant, chant, chant. You keep telling me can't. What's the problem over here? For Prabhupada, it was very simple, that this is the greatest gift. So he could not, And he could see it, but he could not appreciate, why. But that's what all of us have, that we have that can't. That to something or the else we say yes, and to something or the other we say no. But we have Prabhupada's, and we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, and we have Krishna's assurances that we will go back to him. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would say that make this your last life. Don't plan on coming back again. That there is a confluence of many fortunate things that have happened, which is fortuitous, and it is important for us to take advantage of it. Okay, thank you for the question. Any other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, let me start a few things, Prabhu. First of all, I think this is one of the most profound session, because it's so simple yet kind of sinks in very quickly. Doesn't need too much explanation, because it's almost like a intrinsic way we have been designed, right? And I think you said that sometimes. I think where the interesting thing is that the foundation is so simple yet so profound. So I want to just appreciate that first. That everything that you said. The second part of it is that illustration that you were giving about lust to greed to anger was a very profound framework, I call it, because there is also intrinsic nature of ours, or some unfortunate people who have a constant desire. Then I guess they get it, yet it is never fulfilling, so they want more and more, and eventually it manifests in some level of anger, and then you resort to something to get more in another unscrupulous way, and you get it, and you get still more. And it's a kind of a self-destroying vicious circle, and then eventually you lose. There's no way you can win that race. And I think there's some very simple books are written by the management gurus, but I'm just assuming that they had some level of Krishna's blessings on them, because that's so profoundly illustrated what you just talked about in this chapter. So probably the roots lie in Bhagavad Gita, and then somehow they have been able to get it and then monetize it in a very different articulation, because it's such a commonsensical way. That's the second part of it. And the last part of it is, Prabhu, is that sometimes when I see this pictorial representation or articulation where you say you give up this to get the ultimate joy in heaven, whether it is you think you mentioned that about the apsaras and this and that, and you talked about a beautiful thing about I think we are the alien than alien from outside, because such a beautiful world. Why is that in such a beautiful world where both exist? The light and darkness, good and evil, everything exists. Is it just a battlefield or a teaching ground to experience it and then migrate from here? Migrate means just go away from here somewhere to some other place. I don't know what is that place. Or you just come back here because this is the learning ground where you have no choice but to go through both the light and the darkness side of it. It is never nowhere, whether in America or in a village of India or wherever in Africa, it's never sunshine, it's never rain. It's always that dichotomy exists, right? And all of us go through it, whether you are married, unmarried, children, no children. So it's a constant dichotomy. And when you have, I think you said it beautifully, if I hear you correctly, you have the right thing, automatically the wrong thing goes away. It doesn't exist, right? It just uh, but yet we say that let's kind of don't come back here. Uh, uh, so maybe ultimately you leave this place and go somewhere. I don't know what is that place, but you go somewhere. So what? And you talked about a journey. Many things you have said, so they're so profound and so intense. I don't want to waste everybody's time here because we are all limited time here. So Prabhu, is it okay the way it is today? All of us are in a particular frame of situation. Uh, is that okay to experience everything and then kind of go from that experience to some other experience through a very uh, in a very structural way? Or is it okay to come back here again and again and again? Because I don't know what is the level of learning one has to have to come out of this university. Because, or is it a sorry, just another point. I like that. I was just trying to take some notes. What appeals me the most so far, if I have to say it very honestly, that if I have to just kind of shrink everything into a very short articulation back to you for correction, is it the bhakti? And one side of me has to be complete bhakti, and the other side of me has to do that niskam karma. I have no desire to get anything out of that karma, but yet the bhakti is the ultimate route. If I focus in these two, does that give me some level of freedom from this continuous?
It does. It does. Ultimately, Krishna created this material world because we demanded it.
We
We
demand?
said that in the spiritual world, you are the boss. I want to be the boss. And Krishna says that over here, everybody accepts me as the supreme, and harmony is established. So I can create another world for you where there are other people like you who want to be the boss. So he creates the material world for us where everybody is trying to be God. That's the essential definition of the material world. Now, most of us might instinctively reject that, say, no, I don't consider myself to be God. But if you to look deep inside us, we may not label ourselves as God, but our aspirations are godlike. We want things to happen according to our way. We want our wishes to be fulfilled. We want everyone to serve us. Even if we serve somebody else, we want that person to glorify our service. But then Krishna is Krishna. He achieves many things in the same activity. So while he creates this material world, which is a place for us to work out our perverted desires, he also makes it a place where, if we want, we can get purified. So the whole process of the material world is to convert bhakti to bhakti. That we come down to the material world for bhakti. That we enjoy. And then when we come, Krishna comes along with us. He comes in the form of Bhagavad Gita, in the form of devotees. He creates the material world in such a way that bhakti leads to suffering and bhakti leads to happiness. And because the soul is naturally pleasure seeking, it gravitates towards, or it is expected to gravitate towards that. So that is our perfection. That if we give up bhakti, if we take to bhakti, and our ultimate destination, and Krishna speaks about it in this chapter, that then you will come back to that eternal abode where there is no suffering, where there is no birth or death or disease or old age, where everybody is eternally happy. That's the destination that he is pointing us. So I think in the interest of time, thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful realizations. Let me conclude the with the last two slides, the verse to memorize. यह शास्त्र विधिमुत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न सा सिद्धिम् अवाप्नोति न सुखम न param gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. This is a summation of the chapter. So the two sections in this chapter are V and M, divine and demoniac qualities. Divine qualities are associated with the mode of goodness. Krishna gives us a list of 26 qualities. Demonic qualities are associated with the mode of passion and ignorance. Arrogance, anger, conceit, pride, harshness, and ignorance. How do the qualities determine our destination? Divine quality, heaven. Demoniac, hellish. Simple. What is the basis of divine and demoniac natures? The adherence to scriptures. Those who adhere, divine. Those who do not, demoniac. How can one develop develop divine qualities? Surrender to the scriptures. And the three gates to hell are lust, anger, and greed. So this ends our session. I had spoken in the beginning, and I think some people joined later. So I'm going to say it again that we are on the 16th chapter, and we have 2 more weeks. What I would like to propose is that following that, if each one of you takes one chapter and presents it, we would like to do so 10-minute presentation and 5-minute Q&A. And it'd be good if you can do a PowerPoint, 1 slide or 2 slides, but whatever you're comfortable with. So we'd like to do 6 chapters a week. So in 3 weeks, we should be completed, and this would be a good way for us to have a recap of the Bhagavad Gita also. So I'm going to ask somebody to help organize it, to get to figure out who does what. I know Piali has volunteered for chapter 1, so I think that's taken. So we'll figure the logistics out, but I'm just putting it out there. Also want to hear from you if you're okay with this. If I don't get any volunteers, then obviously it's not going to work.
Actually, yes, Prabhuji, it is perfectly okay, Prabhuji. Even the other day I was thinking, when you are presenting each chapter so nicely, like I myself like trying to prepare a small video, 5-minute video to summarize the whole chapter. But I think this exercise will be really helpful, and even I can volunteer to find out who wants to present which chapter. That I can do that also, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So if you can reach out to the different devotees, and so I just wanted to hear from some other devotees also. Are you okay with the idea of presenting? Indulekha is okay. I can see Pat is okay.
Yes, it's an excellent idea, Prabhuji, and I think you allocate the chapters so that we know how much to focus in that. Otherwise, surprise quiz will fail us, or at least fail me.
Okay. So I have Sachijeevan Prabhu. He's okay.
Yeah, I think Prabhuji, yeah, this is a good idea, Prabhuji. So, I mean,
Vikas Prabhu is okay.
Sure. Yeah, I think it will be a third dimension, right? So we are doing Bhakti Shastri, you're going shlok by shlok. Friday classes where we're going chapter by chapter. And now this 10-minute would be an awesome experience.
Yes, yes, I thought so. Thank you, Rajneesh Prabhu. Dhaval Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, we are okay as well.
Okay, wonderful. So Ravi Prabhu will coordinate. I think he'll reach out and get the list of the chapters. The chapters are obviously in sequence, so that's no surprise. But I'll reach out separately to Ravi Prabhu and just discuss a little bit with him, and then he can share.
So what you're suggesting is it will be 6 chapters, 10-minute talk every Friday, which means it will be 3 Fridays, 666.
Great. So 10 minutes of talk and 5 minutes for Q&A.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then Prabhuji may give us the marks, not you.
Pat Prabhu is scared of Indulekha.
No, no, I don't think he was referring to me. I think he's referring to you.
No. I said, no, I was referring to you. He has. So you are not going to give us the mark. Let him the mark because he's very little. I can tell you that much.
Raji Prabhu, you're okay?
Hare Krishna, yeah, I'm
So Ishani and Shrija are ready? Yay! Good to see you girls. Hey Shrija. Oh, there she is. Okay. Do you girls have kartals? By any chance? No kartals? You do have kartals? Yeah. Okay. Okay.